Hey guys, tonight we're stepping onto the damp, foggy streets of Victorian London, gaslight flickering on puddles as you wander in search of sleep. The air smells of soot, stale ale, and that faintly alarming tang of horse manure that seems to get into everything. You pull your coat tighter, it's cold, you're tired, and your brain just won't switch off. It's 1880-something, and you're about to discover the hard way why Victorian doctors might send you to bed clutching a sausage. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge along, glancing at cramped, dimly lit chemist shops with handwritten signs promising sure slumber and nervous complaints relieved. You're not the only insomniac in town. Victorian Britain is practically a nation of sleep-deprived souls. Workdays stretch from dawn to dusk, and the city never quite quiets. Horse-drawn cabs clatter all night, drunken songs drift from pubs, and your landlady's baby seems determined to set the household schedule by screaming at 2 a.m. Of course, you could blame industrialization. The pace of life has picked up like a runaway locomotive. The factories belch smoke even after dark, and your own mind feels stuffed with worries about rent, wages, and that weird new invention called the telephone. Victorian sleep hygiene is not exactly a thing yet. Most doctors seem more worried about your moral fiber than your sleep schedule. You pass a cramped tenement where dozens share a single room, everyone packed like sardines, their snores and coughs forming an odd urban lullaby. Even the middle classes aren't much better off, thin walls, gaslight hissing, and the dread of burglars creeping up polished staircases. It's no wonder people turn to the professionals. Victorian doctors are quick to blame your habits: too much reading by gaslight, not enough exercise, or simply nervous overstimulation, which they claim hits modern folks worse than the good old medieval peasants who apparently conked out right after dinner. And there's you, wide-eyed, trying not to think about the bedbugs. Victorian medicine is a carnival of contradictions. There's real science peeking through, germ theory is catching on, microscopes are being refined, but so are older ideas about humors and mysterious nerves that must be soothed. Some doctors swear by bleeding. Others by warm milk with nutmeg. Then there are the ones who think you're simply lazy and need to stop complaining. But tonight, your doctor is a bit more innovative. You stumble into his candlelit surgery. Shelves of vials, mysterious powders, a skeleton in the corner for effect. He looks up from his notes. Probably scribbled in Latin so you can't tell he spelled insomnia wrong, and sighs. Ah, another poor soul who can't sleep, he says, peering at you over tiny spectacles. He tuts at your pallor, asks about your bowels. Victorian doctors really love this question, and checks your pulse while muttering that the city air is ruinous. And then, with the authority only 19th-century quacks can muster, he prescribes sausage. Not just any sausage, mind you, but one freshly made from the local butcher, preferably with certain spices and a generous helping of fat. Good for the nerves, he assures you. Restorative. Settles the constitution. Historians still argue whether such prescriptions were ever truly widespread or simply a quirky footnote in the annals of medical eccentricity. But they did happen. The idea wasn't quite as unscientific as it sounds. It was rooted in beliefs about nutrition, class, and the supposed calming power of a full stomach. Imagine you blinking at him in disbelief. You want me to eat a sausage? Before bed? Yes, he says gravely. But not too quickly, chew thoroughly. Digestion is everything. You're tempted to ask if he's just hungry himself, but he's already writing you a note for the butcher, which you half expect to say, "One sleepy sausage, please." You clutch this note as you step back onto the foggy street, trying to imagine explaining it to your friends. They'll probably laugh so hard they won't sleep either. This city hums around you. Newspaper sellers bark headlines about politics and murders, not exactly bedtime reading, cabs rattle by, and somewhere a piano tinkles in a pub where no one's worried about insomnia yet. You wonder if they'd laugh at your prescription or secretly want one too. It's a strange, bustling world where doctors are half showmen, half scientists. where the line between pharmacy and kitchen is blurry at best. And tonight, you're playing your part in this grand, absurd medical experiment. You glance back at the doctor's window, candle flickering behind dusty glass. He's probably already moved on to the next patient, some poor soul with hysteria, which apparently can mean anything from genuine trauma to simply being a woman. As you walk, you try not to think about your own anxieties, the rent due next week, the strange cough you've been ignoring, or the fact that your mattress feels like it's stuffed with rocks and regrets. You focus instead on the small comfort of having something to try. Even if it's sausage. It's not the worst prescription you've heard. Laudanum, for instance, tincture of opium, sold in fancy bottles. That might help you sleep, sure, but it could also kill you. At least sausage seems unlikely to end in an overdose, unless you choke on the casing. And so you shuffle on, the gaslight smearing halos in the mist, determined to do what your doctor said. Buy the sausage. Eat it slowly. Hope your stomach feels settled and your nerves soothed. Maybe even get a few hours of rest before the world demands your labor again. After all, you probably won't survive this city without at least a little sleep. You stand there for a moment outside the doctor's office, note in hand, feeling the chill creep through your coat. You can almost hear the city sigh, a restless, insomniac giant rolling over in its sleep. The streets are emptier now, except for the occasional drunk weaving home and the rumble of a distant carriage. Clutching that prescription feels oddly reassuring, as if having any plan at all is enough to make you yawn. Of course, your plan involves wandering to the butcher at this hour, a man who probably doesn't appreciate late-night medical emergencies involving sausages. You shuffle along, imagining his face when you present the note. Ah, another one of Dr. Willoughby's sleep patients, he'll mutter, rolling his eyes while wrapping your link of restorative sausage in old newspaper. Because yes, Victorian butchers have seen this before. Doctors in this era love lecturing you about your nerves. They're convinced the modern world is too stimulating for the delicate constitution. And they're not entirely wrong. This city thrums with steam engines, clanging foundries, political revolutions, and moral panics. People read until late by gaslight, scandalous. You even heard about someone who reads novels in bed, which is obviously asking for ruin. Your doctor, the fussy little man you just saw, has warned you against undisciplined thoughts. He claims your brain needs moral order, not just rest. You smirk at that, apparently sausages are morally upstanding. When you finally reach the butcher, the place is dimly lit. Hooks dangle like iron skeletons, and the smell is not what anyone would call appetizing at midnight. A sleepy apprentice squints at you. Prescription, he asks, stifling a yawn. You hand it over. He doesn't even blink, just nods and shuffles to the back. Clearly, this isn't his first time fulfilling such an order. He returns with a bundle wrapped neatly, pats it twice for luck, and charges you more than you think it's worth. Victorian doctors have a knack for scolding you, even by proxy. The apprentice wags a finger as he passes you the parcel. Eat it slow. Doctor says it's for your nerves. You mutter thanks, wondering if they practice that line. Outside, you turn the parcel over in your hands. It's heavier than you expect, which is comforting. Because food is medicine here, an idea the Victorians take very seriously. Meat is strength. Fat is fortifying. And sausage is, well, conveniently portable health. Historians still argue whether most doctors genuinely believed sausage would solve insomnia, or if this was an eccentric minority of practitioners trying anything to soothe demanding patients. After all, Victorian medicine is nothing if not chaotic. You wander home through streets that glow with sickly gaslight. The air is damp, cold enough to bite, but you're sweating with anxiety. Will this actually work? Or is it just another quack remedy alongside patent medicines with names like Dr. Sloan's Guaranteed Dream Elixir, which probably contain opium, alcohol, or both? Speaking of which, you pass a chemist's window. It's closed for the night, but you can still see shelves lined with bottles, each label grander than the last: calmative tonic, brain powder, soothing syrup for children. Victorian parents sure have a high threshold for risk. You remember what your doctor said about those tonics, dangerous stuff. Sausage is safer. He's right, in a twisted way. Eating too much sausage might give you heartburn, but it probably won't kill you. You wonder if he really cares about your health or if he's simply fed up with patients whining about insomnia. Victorians love a good scolding. Your doctor is no exception. He warned you about your late-night reading, your worries about work, even your social life. You shouldn't be socializing after dark, he sniffed. It overtaxes the brain. You nearly laughed in his face. Socializing? You can barely afford bread some weeks. And yet, here you are, having spent hard-earned coins on a butcher's prescription. Because you want sleep so badly you'll try anything, even chewing this greasy promise of rest. Victorian insomnia is a social disease. Upper-class folks blame nerves from overeducation. Workers blame stress, poverty, and unheated rooms. But doctors blame you. Your moral failings, your diet, your lack of exercise or overexcitement, always something that puts the burden on your shoulders. You finally turn the key in your door. The hallway smells of boiled cabbage and damp. Your landlady's voice filters through the thin walls as she berates her daughter for dropping a plate. You sigh. At least you'll have sausage. Your room is tiny. Bed like an iron cot, lumpy mattress, blanket that's seen better decades. You sit on the edge, unwrapping your parcel, and regard your prize. It's definitely sausage. A bit pale in the gaslight, flecks of fat showing. You can almost hear your doctor's voice in your head, eat it slowly. Let your body work. You take the first bite, savoring the peppery hit of old-school seasoning. Not terrible, honestly. You imagine all those fancy Victorian recipe books touting sausage with nutmeg, sage, even ginger. A respectable middle-class house might have a cook who insists on grinding her own spices. Quirky fact, some doctors even recommended specific herbs in sausages for their calming effect. Chamomile, lavender, things you'd expect in tea, not stuffed in pork casings. Your own sausage seems fairly standard. Maybe the butcher didn't want to experiment. You chew methodically, remembering your doctor's solemn instructions about digestion. Victorians were obsessed with it, believing your entire health depended on whether your stomach behaved. That's why they prescribed everything from gentle walks to castor oil to, yes, sausage. Historians still puzzle over how much these dietary prescriptions were science versus social signaling. Was sausage a genuine cure, or a way to reassure anxious city dwellers that they could afford meat? After all, meat was a status symbol. Even a humble sausage hinted at prosperity. As you eat, you let your thoughts drift. The wind howls outside, rattling the window. Your candle flickers, casting long shadows that seem to yawn across the floor. You lick your fingers and lean back, hoping, just hoping, that tonight will be different. That you'll fall asleep before the baby starts wailing, before the mice in the wall start their midnight conference. You close your eyes, trying to picture peaceful fields, warm hearths, anything but the cold truth of your rented room. Maybe your doctor is right. Maybe a full stomach is enough to calm the mind. Or maybe you'll just dream about sausages chasing you down foggy London streets, demanding payment. Either way, you're giving it a try. Because you're exhausted, your nerves are shot, and frankly, you'll do anything for a few hours' peace. You lean back on the bed, chewing the last bite of your prescription, the taste lingering as you wipe your fingers on your sleeve. The wind outside moans like a restless patient in its own right, rattling the thin window pane. You shift on the lumpy mattress, trying to find a position that feels less like lying on a sack of coal. Your stomach, at least, feels warm and settled. That was the whole idea, wasn't it? According to your doctor, an empty belly leads to restless thoughts, fretful dreams, and moral decline. And you can almost hear him now, lecturing you that the working classes skip meals, damage their nerves, and end up agitated. Because in Victorian Britain, food is medicine. Or punishment. Often both. You glance around your room, shadows dancing on cracked plaster. A single candle is all you can afford to burn at this hour. You snuff it with your fingers, letting darkness press close. There's a certain quiet that follows. Your breathing evens out. And yet your mind refuses to hush. You can't help replaying your doctor's words. He explained it in that patronizing tone only a Victorian gentleman can manage. A light supper is essential. Heavy meals cause disturbed sleep. But starvation weakens the nerves. So here you are, seeking that perfect middle ground in a sausage casing. Victorians were obsessed with balance. Balance of the humours, of the mind, of social class. Even your dinner is a negotiation between too much and too little, signalling your respectability. The idea that what you ate showed who you were, disciplined, moral, worthy of health. You remember your doctor frowning when you confessed you often skipped dinner to save money. No wonder you can't sleep, he said, as if it were that simple. Historians still argue whether doctors truly believed they were curing patients or just enforcing social order. Sleep, after all, was linked to virtue. The well-rested were thought to be industrious and morally upright, while the sleepless were nervous, unstable, even deviant. So it made sense, within their logic, to prescribe food. To insist you eat properly. To nudge you back onto the rails of polite society with something as humble and affordable as sausage. It wasn't just sausage, of course. Other doctors pushed milk, broth, thin gruels. Slippery foods, one guidebook called them, soothing to the throat, easy to digest. Imagine slurping warm gruel by candlelight, convincing yourself it's medicinal. But for the working classes, a bit of spice sausage was practical. Portable. Filling. And if you believed your doctor, calming. You roll onto your side, listening to the sounds of the building. Your neighbors snore. Someone coughs. Floorboards creak as a latecomer tiptoes in, trying to avoid waking the entire household. In the pitch dark, you see the city in your mind's eye. Rows of tenements jammed with humanity. Mansions a few streets over where servants tiptoe to keep the master's house quiet. Even there, sleep is elusive. Upper-class ladies in four-poster beds fret over social embarrassments, while their husbands lie awake worrying about business deals or scandalous affairs. Insomnia, the great equalizer. Your own case feels pathetically normal. Money worries, job worries, that dull ache in your shoulder from hauling boxes all day. Victorian medicine loves to medicalize your exhaustion. They'll name it neurasthenia if you're rich, a nervous collapse from too many parties and telegrams. If you're poor, they'll just scold you for being drunk or idle. But at least tonight you followed instructions. You bought the sausage. You ate it slowly. You did everything right. Your doctor would be proud. Or at least less inclined to lecture you. Quirky fact, some of these sausage prescriptions came with recommended bedtime rituals. Light calisthenics. A warm foot bath. Reading the Bible, but only selected, soothing passages, nothing too fire and brimstone. You almost laugh. You did none of those things. Your foot bath is a crack basin with water gone cold. Your calisthenics are the stairs you climb to this room. Your Bible is under your pillow, unread, because you can't afford more candles. Historians still debate whether these rituals helped anyone sleep or just gave them something to do while they waited to tire themselves out. You yawn, finally. Maybe the sausage is working. Maybe it's just exhaustion winning. Your eyes close for a second, then open again at a sound. Scratching in the wall. Probably a mouse. You groan. This city is alive even when you want it to be dead quiet. You pull your blanket tighter, trying to get comfortable. Your thoughts meander, drifting like the fog outside. You remember childhood, when sleep came easy. When the only worry was being cold or having enough coal for the fire. You'd huddle with siblings under one quilt, whispering nonsense until dreams took over. Those days feel impossibly far away. Now you're an adult. An insomniac adult with a medical prescription for butcher's sausage. You smile into the dark. It's absurd. But you also feel a weird gratitude for the doctor's concern, even if he's half charlatan. At least someone listened. At least someone offered hope, even if it's wrapped in gut lining. You turn again, pillow lumpy under your head, listening for your heartbeat. Slow. Even. That's supposed to be a good sign. You take another deep breath, trying to relax each muscle. Feet, calves, thighs, stomach. Your doctor claimed this would help too. Release tension, he intoned, as if he were a priest hearing confession. You exhale. Sleep doesn't come immediately. But you're not wired with anxiety anymore. Maybe it's the sausage. Maybe it's the power of suggestion. Maybe it's just telling yourself you can sleep. You yawn again, heavier this time. Outside, the wind settles for a moment. Inside, you drift just a little closer to dreams.
You're half asleep when you notice the cold creeping in from the window frame, curling around your ankles. You grumble and pull the threadbare blanket higher, feeling the scratch of worn wool against your chin. Your eyes flutter open, heavy with that leaden promise of real sleep, but you're not quite there yet. Because, of course, you start thinking about the doctor again. The way he jotted notes in his ledger, quill scratching like an accusing finger. He always asks about your bowels, your dreams, your fears of moral decline. You told him the truth, you can't sleep because you're worried. Money. Rent. Work. He scribbled faster. He never asked about the neighbor's baby that cries all night. Or the wind that shrieks like a banshee through the eaves. Or the way your bones ache from labor. No, he diagnosed a nervous exhaustion and handed you that precious sausage prescription. Victorians love their diagnoses. You could be melancholic, neurasthenic, hysterical, or just plain weak-nerved. It was all so precise, so satisfyingly scientific in its nonsense. You shift again on the mattress, listening to your own breathing. Slow. Rhythmic. Historians still argue whether Victorian medicine was progressive or ridiculous. After all, these were the same doctors who prescribed arsenic for skin problems and mercury for syphilis. Yet they also pioneered public health campaigns, sewage systems, and vaccination. The duality is remarkable. Your sausage feels almost innocent in comparison. At least it's food. You think about the chemist's window you passed earlier, all those bottles with elaborate labels. They promise calm, sleep, serenity, but everyone knows they're mostly laudanum or alcohol in fancy packaging. Your doctor was suspicious of those tonics. Bad for the liver, he warned, as though sausage was better. Still, he had a point. Some people got addicted, glassy-eyed and slurring even as they insisted they felt soothed. Quirky fact, there were entire etiquette guides on how to politely take your sleeping draught at dinner parties. You imagine yourself raising a tiny glass to dreams, while everyone pretends not to notice the opium. You nearly snort in the dark at the image. Victorians had a strange relationship with sleep. It wasn't just health, it was morality, discipline, even patriotism. A hard-working Briton was supposed to get enough rest to be productive but not so much as to appear slothful. 8 hours of sleep became almost political. Your doctor droned on about it last visit. A well-regulated sleep schedule is essential for good character. You wanted to ask if he practiced what he preached, but you bit your tongue. You curl tighter under the blanket. Your room is freezing now, breath fogging slightly in the dim light from the street lamp outside. Your stomach feels pleasantly full. That part, at least, seems to be working. You don't have the jangling nerves you had earlier, before the butcher, before the prescription. It's all so absurdly practical. Sausage. For sleep. And yet you see the logic in it. Your doctor explained it as if talking to a child. You must keep your stomach from gnawing at you. A small, fatty meal pacifies the nerves. He used the word pacify like you were a rioting crowd in your own body. You imagine your stomach as a little revolutionary, waving a torch, shouting slogans, no sleep without food. It's funny, but there's truth to it. Hunger is a cruel alarm clock. It claws at your ribs, makes your thoughts dart like mice. You can't focus on sleep when your body's convinced it's about to starve. So you obeyed. Historians still puzzle over these prescriptions. Was it about nutrition? Controlling the working class? Placebo effect? They find old recipe books with sausage variations designed specifically for convalescents. Mild herbs. Less spice. Easier to digest. Food as gentle medicine. You wonder what your sausage contained tonight. Pepper? Sage? Just enough salt to keep it from rotting in the damp London winter? You let your eyes close. You hear a distant carriage rattling over cobbles, fading into silence. Your mind drifts to the butcher's shop. Those dangling hooks, the metallic smell of blood. He didn't even flinch when you showed the prescription. As if it were normal, respectable, routine. Maybe it was. Maybe dozens of people got the same note each week, all of them trudging home in the fog, clutching links of hope. You wonder about them. The mother of 3 who can't sleep for worry about rent. The old man whose joints ache in the damp. The clerk whose mind won't stop reciting numbers. All of you united in this quiet desperation for rest. Your doctor would be pleased at the solidarity. He talks about the civic health as if it's a contagion. If one person can sleep, perhaps everyone will. He's wrong, of course. Sleep doesn't work that way. But you appreciate the thought. You yawn, jaw cracking. You let yourself relax more deliberately. Feet. Ankles. Calves. Your breathing evens out. You count each inhale, exhale, like he suggested. You hate following orders, but you want this to work. You remember the last time you slept well. A hot summer night, window propped open, the air full of lilac. No money in your pocket, but you didn't care. Young enough to think the city was yours. Now you're older. Wiser? Maybe just tired. But you've got sausage in your belly and the promise of sleep on your lips. You close your eyes again. You listen to the silence behind the noise. You let go. You stir in the dark, blanket tangled around your legs like seaweed. Your body is warm now, heavy with that post-meal drowsiness your doctor insisted would come. You can't tell if it's the sausage or sheer exhaustion, but for the first time in days, you're not lying awake rehearsing tomorrow's worries like lines in a play. Your room feels close, close enough that you hear your own heartbeat in your ears. The air is damp with winter chill, but your breath warms it just enough to be bearable. You shift onto your back and sigh, the sound swallowed by the blackness. You wonder how many others are following the same prescription tonight. London is full of people with thin walls, thin blankets, thin hopes. You remember your doctor's office in sharp detail, as if it's printed on the backs of your eyelids. The heavy drapes, the ticking clock, the smell of musty books and medicinal spirits. He always leans back in that creaking chair, steepling his fingers like he's solving the riddle of your soul. He called you a classic case. Said you needed nourishment. Stability. Routine. He handed you that slip of paper with the butcher's address on it like it was a holy relic. Historians still argue whether Victorian doctors genuinely cared for their patients or just liked playing God with the lower classes. It's hard not to see both in your physician's smug, concerned face. You snort softly at the memory. But he wasn't all wrong, was he? He knew the city could eat you alive. That sleeplessness was more than a medical problem, it was social decay. He wanted to hold it back with pork and sage. You stretch one leg experimentally, foot brushing the cold wall. Shiver. Pull back. Funny how so many remedies for insomnia back then revolved around food. Rich or poor, you got your prescription meal. Upper-class ladies sipping warmed milk from porcelain cups. Factory workers buying sausages wrapped in newspaper. Quirky fact, some guides recommended a glass of stout before bed for weak-nerved women. Imagine that, your doctor handing you a pint and wishing you pleasant dreams. Your own cure feels more humble. You picture the butcher, sleeves rolled up, wiping his hands on a stained apron. He didn't question the prescription. Just nodded, weighed the meat, wrapped it up. You could tell he'd done this before. Maybe he had his own prescription tucked in a pocket for when the day's work was done. It's a weird kind of solidarity. You hear distant hooves on cobbles. The city never sleeps entirely. Even now there are cabs rattling home from theatres, doctors rushing to births or deaths, night soilmen scraping the streets clean. You're not alone in your half-wakefulness. Victorians believed in moral sleep. Sleep was proof of self-control. You couldn't just collapse into sloth like some animal. You had to earn it with good behavior, clean living, and carefully measured meals. Your doctor actually used the phrase regulated slumber as if your dreams needed a clerk to audit them. Historians still debate whether this obsession was medical progress or social policing. Maybe both. Maybe neither. You let the thought slip away. Your stomach is quiet now. No hollow ache to keep you alert. You wonder if that's all sleep really needs sometimes. Enough food. Enough warmth. Enough quiet. No tonics. No sermons. Just the simplest things. You shift again, pillow bunching under your ear. Your landlord swears the building is modern, but it still moans like a ghost ship in the wind. The window rattles softly. You're used to it. The city's lullaby. You force your shoulders to drop, breath slowing. Your doctor gave you breathing exercises too. Count in for 4, hold, out for 6. It feels silly, but you try it anyway. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You feel your chest loosen. Your eyelids droop. You remember his final instruction, don't fight the sleep when it comes. As if you would. You almost laugh. Almost. You let your thoughts wander to ridiculous places. What if they'd prescribed something else? Sausage feels so mundane. But it could have been anything. Poached eggs. A cup of broth. Rice pudding. All blessed by the authority of science. Quirky fact, Victorian health manuals debated which puddings were best for invalids. Suet puddings were too heavy for sleep, they decided. Milk puddings won. You imagine arguing with your doctor about pudding like a child. But tonight, you got the sausage. And maybe it's working. You're not thinking about the foreman's glare, or the unpaid bill at the coal merchant, or the landlord hinting about higher rent. You're thinking about warmth, fullness, rest. You feel your mouth go slack, jaw unclenching. Your doctor said insomnia was a civilizational disease. That modern life was too frantic, too stimulating. Too many newspapers, too much gaslight, too many worries. Historians still can't decide if he was brilliant or patronizing. Probably both. You don't care. You want to sleep. You let yourself sink. You picture the city fading around you. The rattle of carriages softens. The wind becomes a hush. Your body grows heavy, anchored to the mattress like a stone in deep water. Your mind drifts in slow circles. One last breath. One last sigh. Darkness, welcome. You lie there, half awake, half dreaming, the cold London air filling your nose with its peculiar dampness. Your breath fogs in front of you, even in the dark. You shift slightly, feeling the straw mattress complain with a papery crunch. Your stomach is heavy but not uncomfortable. A slow, deliberate weight that anchors you here instead of letting your thoughts scuttle off in every direction. The sausage prescription is working, if only because it gives you something simple to hold on to. Your mind drifts back to the butcher's shop, but tonight you let yourself really see it. Not just the hooks and blood, but the quiet ritual of it all. The scraping of knives on steel. The rhythmic smack of cleaver on bone. The careful weighing, as if you were buying gold. He doesn't talk much, that butcher. Just a curt nod when you hand over the prescription. He's probably seen dozens of people clutching the same slip of paper, desperate for sleep, for relief, for a full belly. It makes you feel less alone in your odd little cure. Historians still argue whether Victorian medical advice was driven by genuine compassion or control. Maybe the butcher doesn't care. He just sells the cure. But even that is a kind of mercy. You let your eyes close again, imagining you're back in that narrow shop. The chill in the air kept the meat from spoiling. The floor was covered in sawdust, gritty underfoot. You remember watching it soak up blood and fat, the color darkening like spilt ink. He always cut off just enough for one meal. Not too much, not too little. Enough to help you sleep, according to the doctor. You want to laugh at how bureaucratic it is. Even your insomnia is regulated. You shift under the blanket, its scratchy surface now familiar, almost comforting. You pull it tighter around your shoulders. Your doctor used phrases like digestive tranquility with a straight face. You imagine correcting him, "You mean I won't be hangry at 2 a.m. Quirky fact, there was actually a Victorian movement arguing for vegetarianism as a moral sleep aid. Too much meat was said to inflame the blood, make you restless. Your doctor disagreed, obviously. You try to imagine that, being handed a prescription for lentil stew instead of sausage. Your stomach gurgles quietly in protest at the idea. You exhale, long and slow. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the loose pane in the window frame. You'd wedge paper into the gap if you weren't so sleepy. Instead, you listen to the whistling draft like a lullaby sung by the city itself. Your thoughts roam. Your doctor once warned you about nocturnal excitements. Reading too late. Talking politics in the pub. Even thinking too hard before bed. He wagged a finger, scolding you like a child. Historians still debate whether these warnings were about health or about maintaining social order. A sleepy populace is a docile populace. You don't mind being docile tonight. You're so tired. You try to relax your toes. Your ankles. Your calves. One by one, you release them from duty. You imagine them sighing in relief. You remember a story your doctor told while scribbling in your file. A lady patient who claimed to see ghosts when she couldn't sleep. He told her it was indigestion. Prescribed her boiled chicken and early bedtime. You try not to laugh too loudly. You think about what he wrote in your file. Agitated temperament. Susceptible to city noise. Needs grounding. Grounding. Like you're a lightning rod. He meant well, you decide. In his pompous, self-important way. You yawn, mouth stretching wide enough to make your jaw click. You rub at it lazily, unwilling to open your eyes. Quirky fact, some Victorian doctors claimed that chewing too much tough meat before bed would overstimulate the jaw and keep you awake. Imagine that. A society obsessed with not just what you ate but how energetically you chewed it. You imagine an entire clinic dedicated to sleep-friendly chewing practices. It's absurd. But in that absurdity, there's something comforting. Your prescription is absurd too. But here you are. Heavy-limbed. Yawning. Heartbeat slow and steady. You let yourself sink deeper into the mattress. You feel the shape of your body pressed into the straw. The faint crackle when you shift. Your breathing matches the wind outside now. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Your eyelids are so heavy. You allow your thoughts to blur at the edges. No sharp worries tonight. Just round, sleepy shapes. The butcher's shop. The doctor's office. Your cold little room. All part of the same story. You're a character in it, but tonight you get to close the book. Your doctor would call that therapeutic visualization. Historians still argue whether Victorian doctors were brilliant innovators or just very good storytellers. You don't care. You're here. You're full. You're warm enough, just barely. You're ready to let go. Your last thought before you drift is the stupid phrase he used, digestive tranquility. Tonight, you're tranquil enough. You smile in the dark. You sleep. You stir sometime later, not quite waking but rising toward it, like a bubble drifting up through deep water. The room is silent except for your breathing, slow and even. You're aware of your own weight, the gentle pull of gravity tucking you into the straw-stuffed mattress. Your mouth feels a little dry. You swallow and lick your lips. It's almost funny, your doctor worried so much about your stomach he forgot to mention the Victorian curse of dry bedrooms. Coal fires and drafts turn your mouth into parchment. You shift slightly, the blanket moving in stiff folds. Your thoughts circle back to the idea of prescribed sausage. It still sounds ridiculous, even as you lie here benefiting from it. You imagine telling someone in the 21st century that your doctor ordered you to eat spiced pork so you'd finally get some rest. They'd laugh. You'd laugh too. Quirky fact, Victorian butchers competed for doctor referrals. A really medical butcher would advertise special sleeping sausages, low-fat cuts, or even invalids' forcemeat with extra sage to calm the digestion. You can picture those hand-painted signs. Sleepy pig snoring under the moon, promising slumber in every bite. You snort softly into your pillow. Your breathing evens out again. Historians still argue whether those prescriptions were rooted in genuine science or clever marketing. After all, sleep was serious business in an industrial city. A rested worker was a productive worker. Your doctor surely knew that. But you suspect even he couldn't deny the human side of it. People were exhausted. Broken by factory bells, fog, and endless debts. If a few slices of sausage convinced them they'd sleep better, maybe they actually would. Your eyelids flutter but don't quite close. You let your thoughts wander to Victorian kitchens. Low ceilings stained with soot. A single gas jet hissing faintly. Pots clanging. Water boiling on the range. The smell of onions and cheap meat stewing for hours. You can almost hear the whisper of knives on the chopping board. You imagine yourself there, hunched at a narrow table, elbows tucked in, the doctor's instructions on your mind: eat slowly. Don't overstimulate. Let the food settle. Your fork moves carefully. You chew deliberately. The sausages are spicy but not too hot, crumbly but not dry. You even feel a little grateful for the recipe. It's easy to forget how much of Victorian medicine was cooking advice. Your doctor once joked, in that pompous tone of his, that he was as much chef as physician. He recommended spices for digestion, starches for the nervous constitutions, broths for melancholia. Historians still debate whether this culinary approach was a stopgap for lack of real treatments or a genuine holistic method. You don't mind either way. You picture him in a tall hat and apron, fussing over the seasoning like a cranky Gordon Ramsay of the 19th century. You actually giggle at that. You roll over, pressing your cheek into the cool side of the pillow. Your room creaks with the weight of the wind. You hear the distant clip-clop of a cab on wet cobbles. Even the city seems sleepy now, quieter than before. You exhale. You remember the doctor's final instructions after handing you the prescription. Don't eat too close to bedtime, but don't wait so long you're ravenous. Your stomach should be a gentle sea, not a storm. He really talked like that. You suspect he practiced those metaphors in the mirror. But you followed his advice. Your sea is calm. You close your eyes, relaxing your shoulders. The fire has burned low in your imagination, but the embers glow warm. Enough to keep you company. Enough to keep the shadows at bay. Quirky fact, some Victorian households swore by adding breadcrumbs to sausage to lighten it for sensitive sleepers. Your butcher offered that too, though you couldn't afford the fancy version. You picture that, too. You realize you're so full of these images, these quiet details, that there's no room left for worry. That's the real prescription, you suspect. A full belly. A tired body. A story to drift off with. Historians still argue whether Victorian medicine was more art than science. You suspect it was always both. You let that thought fade as you melt into the mattress. Your breathing deepens. Your body feels impossibly heavy, like you're slowly turning to stone. But your mind is light. You let go. You sleep. You wake briefly, not sure if you actually slept or just fell into that hazy half-dreaming place. The room is impossibly quiet. Even the wind outside has calmed to a polite hush. You shift a little under the blanket, feeling the way the straw moves beneath you. It's like lying on crumpled paper, but you're too tired to care. You let your eyes drift shut again. Your thoughts wander back to your last visit with the doctor. He'd beckoned you into his cramped office, smelling of pipe smoke and damp wool. Papers everywhere. Books stacked in teetering piles. He didn't look up at first, muttering as he scrawled something into a ledger. When he finally did, he peered over his spectacles with that infuriatingly calm expression. "You're back," he'd said. "Still not sleeping?" You had tried to explain about the restless nights. The worrying. The way your brain refused to switch off. He'd nodded solemnly, like a priest hearing confession. Then he pulled out the ridiculous prescription pad. "More sausage. Plain if you can't afford the good stuff. Avoid anything pickled. Absolutely no strong ale before bed." Quirky fact, some doctors insisted even mustard was too stimulating for insomniacs. Imagine explaining that to a Victorian dinner guest. You stifle a laugh against the pillow. Historians still argue whether these restrictions were medical science or social policing. Was it really about your sleep, or about teaching you to be restrained? You think about it, your head buzzing faintly with the memory of those old-fashioned rules. You remember the doctor lecturing about temperance of the flesh, which sounded more like a sermon than a prescription. You want to ask him, is sausage temperate? You let the question fade as your eyelids droop. Outside, you imagine the gas lamps guttering. Someone hurrying home, boots slapping puddles. A dog barking once, then silence. Your city is asleep, mostly. You're almost there too. Your mind drifts to the kitchen again. The smell of sausages frying in a blackened pan. Fat spitting. The scrape of a fork against tin. You see your own hands turning them carefully, worried you'll burn them and ruin your medicine. You remember the warm plate in your lap, the tiny, ceremonial moment of eating slowly, chewing thoroughly. Your stomach filling, sending that calming signal to your frantic brain. You exhale slowly. You imagine your doctor watching you eat, taking notes on your posture. Don't slouch. Don't rush. Let the meal soothe you. It's so ridiculous it's almost beautiful. You feel your arms go limp at your sides. Your mind turns to the idea of Victorian insomnia as a social disease. They wrote pamphlets on it, warned of its dangers to moral character. As if your sleeplessness might make you a criminal. Historians still debate whether those warnings were genuine health advice or fearmongering. You picture those pamphlets. Dramatic fonts. Pictures of pale, wide-eyed men pacing their bedrooms. Warning, the curse of insomnia. You'd buy one just for the cover. You yawn. You remember the butcher wiping his hands on his apron, handing over the wrapped sausage like it was medicine from an apothecary. He never said much. But he always met your eyes, gave a tiny nod of understanding. "Everyone's tired," he seemed to say. You roll onto your side, pressing your knees up slightly. The blanket rustles, shifting its weight to mold around you. You're grateful for it. Even the scratchy parts feel safe now. Your doctor once said your nerves were like frayed wires. He recommended sausage to insulate them. You nearly burst out laughing then. Quirky fact, Victorians sometimes prescribed raw eggs in milk for the same reason. You chose the sausage. You stand by that choice. You swallow, your mouth dry but not painful. You let your tongue rest behind your teeth. Your thoughts are slowing down. You picture the doctor's notes, all neat and prissy, patient reports better sleep with mild diet. Recommend continued observation. You wonder if he was proud of that note. If he showed it to colleagues. "See? I cured another one." Your breathing slows. You let the last vestiges of the day slide away. You're just here. In this room. In this moment. Digestive tranquility, he called it. He wasn't wrong. You're warm. You're full. You're so tired. You let yourself go. You sleep. You wake gently, the soft light of early morning filtering through the thin curtains, casting pale stripes across your blanket. The air smells faintly of damp stone and chimney smoke, a scent you've come to associate with these quiet, slow hours before the city fully stirs. You roll onto your back, feeling the familiar weight of the straw mattress beneath you, its subtle rustle as you move. Your stomach rumbles softly, a gentle reminder of last night's prescribed sausage, now fully settled but still present. You think back to how your doctor described the digestive process as a dance of humors, a delicate balance that, when achieved, would soothe both body and mind. The sausage was intended as a humble step in that dance, rich enough to comfort but simple enough not to provoke unrest. Quirky fact, some Victorian physicians believed the spice in sausages acted almost like a sleep whisperer, gently coaxing the nerves into calm without harsh sedation. You imagine the spice as tiny little lullabies for your insides. Your thoughts drift to the bustling markets where your sausage was likely sourced, narrow lanes lined with vendors shouting over one another, colorful cloths flapping in the wind, and the hum of barter mingling with distant church bells. Historians still debate whether these market sounds contributed to the city's restless energy or offered a comforting rhythm for sleepless souls. You imagine the butcher's hands deftly selecting cuts of meat, blending herbs and fat with precision honed by years of practice. Each sausage, a small crafted promise of rest. You smile quietly at the thought, such care poured into something so ordinary. The doctor once told you that Victorian sleep remedies weren't just about the body but the environment too. He advised dim gaslight, cool air, and even recommended fans or open windows to invite the night's calm. You remember the faint flicker of the gaslight in your room last night, the slight hiss as it struggled to stay lit. You had almost wanted to blow it out, but the soft glow felt reassuring. Quirky fact, some Victorians used sleep pillows filled with lavender or hops to enhance rest. You wonder if the sausage was meant to be their savory culinary cousin. Your breath deepens as you sink further into the mattress, the sounds of the city waking around you, distant footsteps, the clatter of horse-drawn carriages, the occasional bark of a dog. You try to hold on to that sense of calm as your body slowly wakes, mind swirling with the gentle absurdity and tender care of your unusual remedy. Historians still argue whether Victorian sleep advice was more art or science, but tonight it feels like a little magic. You feel the last traces of tension melt away, leaving only the warmth and steady rhythm of a new day beginning. You close your eyes once more, ready to carry this calm forward. You rise slowly, the morning light soft on your face, the smell of damp earth and wood smoke drifting through your open window. The city outside is beginning to stir, but inside your room, the quiet lingers like a gentle promise. Your mind lingers on the curious case of Victorian doctors prescribing sausage as a sleep aid. You think about the curious mix of medical wisdom and culinary art that shaped this peculiar remedy. The doctor's office still feels vivid, shelves crowded with glass jars, each filled with mysterious powders and tinctures, the faint aroma of herbs mingling with stale leather-bound books. He explained that Victorian medicine often blurred lines, food was medicine, and medicine was food. Sausage, with its carefully chosen spices and balanced fats, was thought to settle the stomach and calm the nerves. Quirky fact, some recipes included a touch of valerian root or even a hint of hops, known then as liquid lullabies, to enhance the calming effect. You imagine the butcher blending these ingredients with practiced hands, crafting each link with care and subtlety. Historians still debate how much of this was effective treatment versus a comforting ritual, but you suspect the latter held powerful sway. Your thoughts drift to the daily rituals that surrounded these prescriptions, the measured pace of eating, the quiet moments of anticipation, the soft candlelight flickering against wallpaper patterned with delicate florals. It's almost like a small, private ceremony dedicated to rest itself. You smile at the thought, remembering how your doctor recommended a slow walk after dinner to settle the humors, a gentle stroll through gaslit streets wrapped in a wool cloak, boots crunching on cobblestones. Quirky fact, some Victorian insomniacs swore by the butcher's hour, the quiet time just after the shops closed, when the city seemed to breathe out and prepare for sleep. You picture yourself there, the cold air brushing your cheeks, the muffled sounds of distant laughter fading into the night. Historians still argue whether these evening habits were as crucial as the sausage itself in coaxing sleep. You lean back into your pillow, the weight of the past settling softly over you. Your body feels heavier, calmer. Your mind quieter. You welcome the slow descent into sleep's embrace. You settle back onto the mattress, the faint creak of the straw bed beneath you blending with the distant sounds of the waking city. The morning light now streams more fully through your window, casting gentle golden hues across the patchwork of your blanket. Your thoughts drift once more to the peculiar prescription that has marked this strange journey, the humble sausage. It's curious, isn't it, how something so everyday could hold such an esteemed place in Victorian medical lore. You remember the doctor's soft-spoken explanation that food was not just nourishment but a balm for the weary soul. That digestion was tied intimately to one's nervous system, and a settled stomach meant a settled mind. Quirky fact, some Victorian recipes even called for sleep sausage made with herbs like hyssop or lavender, ingredients we'd now associate more with a floral garden than a butcher's shop. You picture those fragrant links, infused with the countryside scents, tucked inside a warm kitchen. Historians still debate whether these herbal additions genuinely soothed the nerves or were merely an attempt to make the idea more palatable. You imagine yourself in that kitchen, the clatter of pots and the soft murmur of servants going about their morning chores. A fire crackling low in the hearth, the scent of warm bread mingling with the spicy aroma of your prescribed sausage. You take a slow, deliberate breath, letting these peaceful images wash over you. Your doctor also insisted on the importance of routine, regular meals, gentle exercise, and a quiet mind before bedtime. His prescriptions were as much about lifestyle as the sausages themselves. Quirky fact, some patients were encouraged to keep sleep journals, noting what they ate and how well they rested. You imagine Victorian insomnia as a social condition, treated with patience and careful observation rather than urgency. Historians still argue about how effective these methods truly were, but you suspect they offered a kind of comfort, something more tangible than modern pharmaceutical promises. Your eyelids grow heavy. You picture the night settling again, this time with a promise of rest. The warmth of your blanket, the weight of the past gently pressing down, the quiet assurance that you are cared for, in this strange, bygone way. You let the last traces of wakefulness slip away. You wake to a dimming sky, the fading light softened by a gentle rain tapping against your window pane. The scent of wet earth rises, mingling with the faint aroma of tobacco from a distant chimney. The day has slipped quietly toward evening, and your thoughts wander back to the curious remedy that has become part of your nightly ritual, sausage for sleeplessness. You recall how Victorian doctors, steeped in theories of humours and bodily balances, prescribed food not just for sustenance but as a kind of medicine for the soul. Sausage, with its mix of meat and spices, was believed to calm an unsettled stomach, which in turn soothed the restless mind. Quirky fact, some Victorian sleep remedies included mixing ground pepper and nutmeg into sausages, believing the mild spices helped temper the nerves rather than excite them. You imagine these sausages as tiny, aromatic pockets of tranquility. Historians still debate whether these culinary concoctions genuinely improved sleep or served as comforting rituals that gave patients a sense of control over their troubles. You think about the social aspect too, how the ritual of eating a prescribed meal could ease loneliness and provide structure, which itself is a kind of medicine. The doctor's notes you've glimpsed emphasized not only the ingredients but the manner of consumption, slow, deliberate chewing, a quiet environment, and the absence of strong alcohol. You remember the subdued lighting in your room, the soft rustle of curtains in the evening breeze, and the gentle hum of distant voices winding down. Quirky fact, Victorian insomnia was sometimes considered a moral failing, a sign of excessive worry or indulgence, which added a layer of social pressure to the physical discomfort. You imagine the quiet judgment behind the doctor's calm demeanor. Historians still argue how much of Victorian insomnia treatment was shaped by social norms versus medical understanding. You settle back into your bed, feeling the comforting weight of your blanket. The rain's rhythm is slow, steady, and oddly soothing, like nature's own lullaby. Your breath deepens, your body relaxing into the soft mattress beneath you. You feel the steady pulse of the night, the slow ticking of unseen clocks. You imagine the sausage, warm and savory, still working its gentle magic inside you. You let the peaceful darkness draw you under. You sleep. You lie back again as twilight deepens outside, the faint glow of gas lamps flickering to life along cobblestone streets. The quiet murmurs of distant conversations float in through the open window, blending with the soft rustle of curtains stirred by a cool evening breeze. Your thoughts circle once more to the curious practice of prescribing sausage for sleeplessness, a notion that seems so odd now, yet made perfect sense in its time. Victorian doctors believed that an unsettled stomach could rattle the nerves, and a calm digestion was key to a good night's rest. You recall the doctor's calm voice explaining how the spices in sausage were carefully chosen to be both nourishing and soothing. Nutmeg, cinnamon, and cloves, aromatic but mild, work together to temper the spirits, an old phrase you imagine as meaning to settle the restless soul. Quirky fact, some Victorian recipes included adding a hint of rosewater or even orange peel to sausages, infusing them with subtle floral notes. You can almost smell the warm kitchen, the scent weaving through the air like a gentle invitation to rest. Historians still debate whether these ingredient choices were medically effective or simply a cultural preference for comforting flavors in times of distress. You think about the ritual itself, the slow, deliberate eating, the soft clinking of cutlery on porcelain plates, the candlelight flickering gently across wallpaper patterned with delicate flowers. You remember how your doctor emphasized the importance of pacing and environment, no harsh lights, no sudden noises, and definitely no strong ale before bed. Quirky fact, in some Victorian homes, a small dish of cold milk and honey was left by the bedside, considered a night's promise to soothe the throat and calm the mind. Historians still argue whether such bedside rituals were rooted more in superstition or in subtle psychological comfort. You feel the warmth of your blanket pulling you deeper into rest, your breath slowing and evening out, the day's worries dissolving like mist. The city quiets, the gas lamps dim, and you drift again into that gentle sleep. You sleep. The morning light filters softly through lace curtains, the world outside still wrapped in a gentle haze. You stretch beneath your warm blanket, the faint scent of wood smoke mingling with the lingering aroma of yesterday's sausage resting quietly in your thoughts. You remember how the Victorian doctor explained that food was more than fuel, it was a conversation with your body, a way to coax it gently toward calm. Sausage, he said, was a humble but effective emissary in this dialogue, delivering just enough richness and spice to settle nerves and invite rest. Quirky fact, some Victorian butchers added a touch of crushed almonds or even a dash of rosehip to their recipes, believing these ingredients promoted dreamy states and eased anxiety. You picture the soft clatter of mortar and pestle, the fragrant powders mixing into the meat. Historians still debate how much of this was practical medicine versus comforting tradition, but the care and intention behind it remain undeniable. You think about the ritual surrounding the meal, the soft glow of candlelight, the slow, measured chewing, the quiet moments taken to savor rather than rush. These were acts of kindness to oneself, a gentle rhythm to quiet a racing mind. You recall the doctor's advice to pair the meal with a slow walk in the cool evening air, to let the body digest and the mind unwind. It was a prescription not only for food but for peace. Quirky fact, some patients kept sleep diaries, noting which recipes or routines brought the best rest. You imagine these journals, filled with delicate script and careful observations, a Victorian version of modern self-care. Historians still argue about the effectiveness of these journals but agree they offered a sense of control and comfort. You breathe deeply, the memory of that evening walk filling your mind, the crunch of boots on gravel, the whisper of leaves in the breeze, the steady cadence of your footsteps as the city settles into night. You feel yourself drifting toward that same calm, letting the warm embrace of sleep take hold. You sleep. The soft murmur of rain taps against your window as twilight deepens, wrapping your room in a cozy quiet. You nestle deeper into your blankets, the scent of damp earth mingling with the faint trace of lingering spices from last night's unusual prescription, sausage for sleeplessness. You recall how Victorian doctors believed that sleep troubles were often linked to digestion, and so their remedies focused on what you put into your body as much as how you prepared your mind. Sausage, rich and spiced just so, was thought to soothe the stomach and, by extension, calm restless nerves. Quirky fact, in some recipes, sausage makers added subtle hints of hops or valerian root, ingredients now known for their mild sedative properties. You imagine the butcher's careful hand mixing these with meats and herbs, crafting each link as a tiny, savory lullaby. Historians still debate whether these herbal infusions truly aided sleep or were simply comforting traditions passed down through generations. You think about the gentle rituals surrounding this remedy, the quiet lighting, the slow, mindful eating, the gradual winding down of the day. Your doctor advised against alcohol or heavy meals, emphasizing calm and moderation instead. Quirky fact: some Victorian households used sleeping tents, delicate canopies draped over beds to keep out drafts and create a cozy nest for rest. You picture your own room transformed, soft fabrics cocooning you in warmth. Historians continue to explore how environmental comforts like these complemented dietary prescriptions in treating insomnia. You breathe deeply, the steady rhythm of rain against glass syncing with your slowing heartbeat. You feel the warmth of your bed, the lingering taste of spices, the reassuring presence of a care that might seem odd now but was deeply sincere then. You close your eyes, the world narrowing to this quiet, safe space. You sleep. The soft glow of twilight fades outside your window, replaced by the gentle flicker of gas lamps casting long shadows along the quiet streets. You lie still beneath your heavy quilt, the faint scent of lavender and sausage lingering in the cool night air. Your mind drifts back to the delicate balance Victorian doctors sought to achieve with their treatments. They believed that soothing the stomach was key to calming restless minds, and thus the humble sausage, rich with carefully chosen spices and herbs, became a nightly ritual for many insomniacs. Quirky fact: some Victorian recipes included sleep sausage blends with hops and valerian, both now recognized for their calming effects. You can almost taste the subtle bitterness softened by the meat's richness. Historians still debate how much these ingredients contributed medically versus the power of routine and expectation in healing. You recall the doctor's quiet instructions: avoid heavy drinks, eat slowly, and create a peaceful environment with dim lights and soft sounds. These weren't just prescriptions for the body but gentle guidance for the soul. Quirky fact: Victorian homes sometimes featured night bells, small devices to summon assistance without leaving the bed, highlighting how much care was given to comfort during rest. You imagine the soft chime echoing through the quiet rooms. Historians argue how such comforts might have eased anxiety and improved sleep quality, a precursor to modern sleep hygiene concepts. You breathe in deeply, feeling the day's tension release with every exhale. The night wraps around you like a warm, familiar blanket. You feel your heartbeat slow, the steady rhythm syncing with the soft hush of the world outside. You drift further into sleep's embrace. You sleep. The gentle hush of nighttime settles around you as your thoughts wander back to those Victorian evenings where the strange prescription of sausage for sleeplessness was more than mere medicine. It was a carefully crafted ritual blending taste, tradition, and tender care. You recall the doctor's explanation of the body's delicate humors, how a settled stomach was believed to ease an anxious mind. Sausage, with its blend of rich meat and aromatic spices, acted like a gentle balm, soothing the digestive tract and quieting restless thoughts. Quirky fact: some Victorian recipes included rosewater or orange peel to add a faint floral note, an unexpected twist that transformed the humble sausage into a sensory lullaby. You picture those fragrant morsels being prepared by hand in dimly lit kitchens, the scent curling through the air like a soft invitation to rest. Historians still debate whether these recipes were rooted in practical medicine or cultural comfort, but their enduring appeal is undeniable. You think of the ritual surrounding the remedy, the slow, deliberate eating, the warm glow of candlelight reflecting off polished silverware, and the quiet companionship of household members winding down for the night. Quirky fact: some Victorian insomnia treatments included sleep baths, where herbs like lavender or chamomile were steeped in warm water to soothe both body and mind before bed. You imagine the faint steam rising in the softly lit bathroom. Historians argue whether these baths were more effective than the sausage itself, or if the combined rituals created the true magic. You feel the familiar weight of your blanket pressing gently on your limbs, the slow cadence of your breath matching the peaceful rhythm of the night. You let go of the day's worries, the gentle darkness enfolding you like a tender embrace. You sleep. Night deepens and the world outside your window falls into a hushed quiet, broken only by the occasional soft footsteps of a distant passerby. You feel the warmth of your blankets and the faint aroma of the herbs once mixed into those Victorian sausages, lingering like a sleepy memory. You recall how Victorian doctors, influenced by both tradition and emerging science, believed food was medicine for the restless mind. Sausage, with its blend of meat, spices, and sometimes soothing herbs, was thought to regulate digestion and calm the nervous system, gently nudging you towards sleep. Quirky fact: some recipes included a pinch of dried hops or valerian root, now known for mild sedative properties, making these sausages a kind of edible lullaby. You imagine the butcher carefully grinding these herbs into the mix, the scent subtle but inviting. Historians still debate how much of the effect was pharmacological and how much came from the comforting routine and belief surrounding the practice. You think of the slow rituals that accompanied the prescription: dimmed lights, a quiet room, the careful pacing of eating, all designed to prepare both body and mind for rest. Quirky fact: Victorian sleep remedies often included leaving a bowl of warm milk near the bed, sometimes infused with a touch of cinnamon or honey, adding to the sense of calm and coziness. Historians argue whether these gentle, layered comforts combined to create a true therapeutic effect, or if it was the care and attention behind them that mattered most. You breathe deeply, the quiet rhythm of the night wrapping around you like a soft shawl. Your heartbeat slows, your limbs relax, and you surrender to the peaceful pull of sleep. You sleep. Outside, the night air is cool and still, the occasional distant hoot of an owl punctuating the silence. You settle deeper into your bed, the warmth of your quilt cocooning you as your mind drifts back to the curious intersection of food, medicine, and sleep in Victorian times. You remember how doctors of that era viewed sleeplessness not just as a symptom but a disruption of the body's natural balance. Sausage, with its carefully blended spices and nourishing meat, was seen as a gentle agent to restore calm, offering a comforting, edible hug to an anxious stomach and an unsettled mind. Quirky fact: some Victorian cooks infused their sausages with mild herbs like lemon balm or chamomile, known today for their soothing qualities. You imagine the soft rustle of herbs being picked fresh from a garden, their delicate fragrance filling the kitchen air. Historians still argue about the precise influence of these ingredients, but they agree the ritual of preparing and consuming such foods was an important part of the healing process. You think about the subtle interplay of rituals, dim lighting, quiet rooms, measured eating, and the absence of distractions, all contributing to a calm atmosphere conducive to sleep. Quirky fact: Victorian homes often featured sleeping rooms designed to minimize noise and drafts, emphasizing the importance of environment alongside diet. You picture the heavy drapes and soft rugs muffling the sounds of the outside world. Historians debate the extent to which such environmental factors were recognized as vital at the time, but their use underscores a holistic approach to health. You feel your breath slow, your body sink further into comfort, and the gentle darkness around you deepen. You sleep. The night stretches on, a deep, velvety quiet wrapping your room like a gentle cloak. Your eyelids grow heavier as the soft shadows lengthen, and the comforting scent of imagined Victorian kitchens, the mingling of herbs, spices, and roasting meat, floats faintly in your mind. You think back to those doctors prescribing sausage as a humble remedy for sleeplessness, a testament to a time when food was both medicine and ritual, nourishing body and soul alike. Their understanding may have been limited, but their care was profound, woven into the fabric of everyday life. Quirky fact: some recipes called for subtle additions like rose water or orange peel to transform the ordinary sausage into a soothing sensory experience, a delicate bedtime indulgence. Historians still discuss whether these ingredients truly soothed nerves or simply comforted the imagination, but the ritual's gentle power remains clear. You remember the slow rituals, the quiet meals by candlelight, the soft sounds of a household settling down, the care taken to create an environment ripe for rest. The sausage was just one thread in a tapestry of gentle attentions designed to coax the body into sleep. As you drift deeper, the day's worries dissolve. The warm weight of your blanket, the steady rhythm of your breath, and the soft cadence of the night combine to cradle you gently. Now, as your mind relaxes and your body unwinds, you let the peaceful darkness welcome you fully. You sleep. Now, as you lie here, sinking softly into the quiet folds of night, remember that sleep is not just a pause but a gentle unfolding, a slow journey into calm and rest. The warm rituals, the comforting smells, the tender care that once wove through everyday lives are echoes of a timeless human need for peace. Feel the softness around you, the gentle weight of your blanket, the slow, even rhythm of your breath, the faint murmur of night sounds weaving a lullaby just for you. Let your thoughts drift like leaves on a quiet stream, each one floating farther away, lighter and lighter. There's no rush here, no urgency. Just the slow, sweet surrender to rest, as the world softens and your mind finds stillness. The care of those old remedies, the comforting ritual of a humble sausage, remind us that sometimes healing lies not in complexity but in kindness, in slowing down, in paying attention. Now, dim the lights a little more, maybe turn on a fan for that steady, soothing hum, and let your body melt into softness. Sleep is waiting patiently, like an old friend, ready to carry you into dreams gentle and kind. Good night, and sleep well.